you fill the attendance. It's very, very important to fill the attendance. It's a testament that you actually joined the class. So without taking much of our time, those of us that missed yesterday's class, the session is available on our YouTube page. Okay, and you can always access it anytime. You can just go over it whenever you're free. We'll also be dropping the link here so that you can have access to yesterday's class. Okay, good. So let me just hand over directly to the facilitator. A person of Olamide is a colleague of mine, Olamide Shugbamu. Okay, Olamide Shugbamu, can you confirm that you are ready? And then you can take the mic and then continue and start your session for today.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olamide Shugbamu. Kindly confirm that you can hear me. Okay, thank you very much. I'll go straight into the session now. I'll be sharing my screen in a bit. Let me just do this. Okay, kindly confirm that you can see my slide in presentation mode. Now it's going to look. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Can you give me a minute, please? A minute. Okay. Yeah, welcome to second day of AI in every city, powered by Data Science Nigeria. I hope my screen is on. My screen is clear and you can see my voice. So without taking much of our time, I'll quickly go through what we learned yesterday and take us into what we are going to be learning today. So for those that are able to join us yesterday, we have the privilege to learn about the fundamentals of Microsoft Excel, why we use Excel and what Excel can be used for. We looked at data, we looked at the concept of data, we looked at how we load data into Microsoft Excel, the different kinds of formats that Excel supports. We looked at best practices of entering data into Microsoft Excel. We looked at how we can visually explore our data. And the good news is that if you missed any part of this session, the link to the YouTube video is available. You can go to YouTube and stream it. So very quickly, what are we going to be learning today? We are learning the basic formulas in Microsoft Excel and we are looking at pivot tables. Yeah, yesterday we looked at some formulas. When we talked about the interface of Microsoft Excel, One of the things we spoke about was the formula tab, and we looked at some formulas that are under it, like sum. But today we are going to be looking at it more critically, and we are also going to be learning about pivot tables. So, what is the objective of this lesson? You should be able to, you should learn about cell referencing. You should know more formulas that you can use for data analytics, and then you should be able to learn the fundamentals of pivot table. So you have mentioned that you are going to learn about cell referencing. I've mentioned that you learn the fundamental formulas for data analytics. We're also going to be looking at some data manipulation in Excel, and if you want to create your own formula, we look at some steps that you can take to create your formula, give your formula a name, and save it in Excel. Let's quickly go into it. So, cell referencing. Why is cell referencing important, and why do I say we are doing Excel formulas and then I'm talking about cell referencing? Please give me a minute, please. Okay. Yeah. So, sorry, please give me a minute. I need to share my screen back. Yeah, I think I'm back and my screen is up. So what is cell referencing? What do we mean by cell referencing? If you remember yesterday's class, I mentioned what a cell is, and I said a cell is a small rectangle that makes up a worksheet in an Excel. So basically, if you open a new Excel page, you are going to see different rectangles that makes up like a table or a grid. So each one of it is a cell. So if I have a cell and I have a value inside a particular cell, I can reference that cell in another cell, and that is what we mean by cell referencing. And let's say I have two sheets. If you look at my screen, you see this very this side where we have like an Excel sheet picture. You have sheet one and we have sheet two under it. We can actually have a value in sheet one and reference it in sheet two. So I think I know what. You just follow the screen based on what you are able to see. If you look at this is sheet one and we have sheet two here. Yeah, so I can have a value in sheet one here, and then I can reference it if I come to sheet two. We are going to see how that is done when we go to when we do hands-on. So there are basically three types of referencing. We have relative referencing, we have absolute referencing, and then we have mixed referencing. So relative referencing means that I am referencing a particular cell in relation to the cells that are surrounding it. So let me explain that. It means that if if the value here is 1 and the value here is 2 and the value here is 3, and the value in cell 4 is 4. And I want to reference all this value in this new cell. Say I want to say, because this place is 1, so I'm doing 1 times 2. The 1 that I'm using to multiply by 2 is actually the value that is here. So if I do 1 times 2 here, this one will become, because it is 2 that is here, this one will become 2 times 2. Because it is 3 that is here, this one will become 3 times 3. Because I'm actually referencing all the value here to multiply by 2 in this new cell. So if I do relative referencing, so this one becomes 1 times 2. So I don't need to go and start doing 2 times 2, 3 times 2, 4 times 2. If I actually implement the relative referencing, I can just do like a flash fill. And because my reference is relative to the surrounding cells, it will just pick the value in the surrounding cell, which are 2, 3, and 4, and multiply them by 2 for me. So that is what we mean by relative referencing. Yeah, that is correct. So what about absolute referencing? If we remember our maths, we know that absolute value is a value on its own. It is absolute. It is absolutely defined. Whether it is relative to his neighbor, it is not relative to his neighbor. It is that value. So absolute referencing does not look at what is going on around it. If I do 1 times 2 here, and I do flash fill or automatic fill, yeah, let me say quick fill, something like that, it will still remain 1 times 2 throughout, even though I have referenced 1 that is here. We'll see how that works too. So we also have mixed referencing. So mixed referencing is a type of referencing that works across the row and the column. Yes, it works across row and column. So that is a little advanced type of referencing. It works in 2 ways. You can reference column and leave the row. You can reference the row and leave the column to be absolute. So with referencing, we can make our calculation and data entry to be very, very dynamic, meaning that you don't have to be typing all over and all over and all over again. Yeah, so let's proceed. So in simple terms, cell referencing can be referred to as cell reference can be referred to as a cell name. And yesterday we looked at what a name box is. And inside the name box, that is where you find a cell name. So it is interesting to note that cell referencing has other uses. Yeah, so it has other uses apart from just using it to call a value and the likes. So why simple reference points to that value in a cell with its cell name. You can also reference a range of cells by specifying the beginning and the end. So what I'm trying to say here is that you can reference a range. A range simply means I'm starting at the point and I'm ending it at the point. So let's say I want to reference everything from A1 to A31. I can actually just mention A1, separate it by a colon, and say A31. That way, I am able to reference the range of the cell. The best way to reference a cell in Microsoft Excel is to click on the cell you want to refer to. Yes, that is the correct English that is supposed to be there. So, especially when we are referencing a range, if I want to reference a value, the best way or the quickest way to do it is to quickly come and click on that value when I want to reference it. So we'll see, I'll show you what I mean by that when we get to the practical session. So let's say I want to reference a value is in cell 10 here, and I want to reference it in D1. So instead of me saying is equal to A10, I can just say is equal to, and then come and click on the A10 here. It will automatically appear as A10 in Excel. So we can reference a cell between worksheets of an Excel by specifying the worksheet name and the cell reference separated by an exclamation mark. This is what we call cross-referencing. So cross-referencing is simply the concept of I'm on this sheet, I want to reference a value from another sheet. So I'll just specify the name of the sheet, separate it by exclamation mark, and the name of the cell. We looked at navigating between two between sheets yesterday, and that is also what is applicable to referencing between sheets. Now, so here is like the system that we use for cell referencing. So the relative referencing does not need me to specify a dollar sign because it is relative. I'll just say is equal to, I mentioned the cell I want to reference and it works for me. So you can go ahead and read everything that is there. There are things that I have already explained. So if you just say is equal to B6 multiplied by B5. So if I am to do flash fill and I'm coming to the row that is under it, which will do B7 multiplied by B6. If I come to the row that is under it, it will do B8 multiplied by B7. So that is relative referencing. It is relative to what is surrounding it. But when we come to absolute referencing, you see that I have used dollar sign to make it absolute. So if I say this type of referencing is also A1, because the dollar sign there, it is not a character in this case, it is now a syntax. Yeah, it is now a syntax, meaning that it's now serving as a function. It is no longer a character that is saying dollar a $1 a dollar. No, it is saying this is absolute referencing, and the absolute referencing is A1. So if I take this A1 and I use it as a flash fill, it will not automatically refer to the cell that are surrounding A1. It will remain static. We will see it when we get there. In case I skip it, somebody can just remind me that, oh, I'm yet to demo absolute referencing, I'm yet to demo relative referencing. So mixed referencing is like, oh, I want to make the row constant and the value and the column relative. I want to make the row relative and the column constant. Yes, that is, you see what I did here, B is the column. So I'm making the column absolute, but the row does not have dollar. B2, meaning that column B row 2. So if I say dollar $B, meaning that I want the column to be absolute and the row to be relative. But if I say B, it means I want the column to be relative and the row to be absolute. So it works both ways like that. So this is a way we do mixed referencing. So what are the so having gained this knowledge of referencing and how we can use it, it is always important because by the time we are writing our formulas in Excel, we are going to be referencing values. Some values are variable, some values are constant. So values that are likely to be variables, we reference them using cell referencing. And that is why we have to look at cell referencing before going to the essential formula in Microsoft Excel. So let us see what we have. Okay, Microsoft Excel can be used to automate tasks and calculation. And creating formula is the bedrock of this interesting feature. So we are going to be learning how to create valid formulas in Excel and also how to check for error. So it's a best practice when you're writing a logical expression. You always undo error. It's called error handling. So in case your formula works for some value and it did not work for some value, how will you know that it's actually work for some value, and how will you filter the ones that it did not work for? So that is when error handling comes in. So all this we are going to be looking at in the next few minutes. So let us quickly look, how do we write a formula in Excel? Every formula in Excel begins with an equal sign followed by a closed bracket. A closed bracket simply means that it will have opening brace and closing brace. Yeah, so that is what we mean by a closed bracket. So we have equal sign followed by opening brace and then ending with closing brace. Note that this quotation mark is not part of the formula. I'm just using it to emphasize what it does. So let's take a simple, let me see in the comment section, what is the simple equation of a, okay, yeah, what is the equation of a straight line in simple or general way? You know, we all did, at least, even if we are we have, like, equation of a straight line is one of the most common equations, right? So if you know, just help us type it in the comment section. Let me just see. I want to use that to like explain how we can define a formula in Excel. I want to use that to define how we can. So I want to know if we are aware of what equation of a straight line is. Okay, yeah, somebody's saying y is equals to mx plus c. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I can see Shure Mekun, I can see Sabari, I can see Danimax. So y is equal to mx plus c. Yeah, thank you very much. So I know that equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. Now let's say that I'm trying to calculate the value of y is equal to mx plus c. And I want to store y somewhere in a cell. Yes. So I want to store y somewhere in a cell, meaning that I don't know y before. And if you remember very well, in the equation of a straight line, there are some things that are constant, which is m and c, the slope and the intercept. So it means that m can be 10. X, we don't know x. So let's keep x as x. So that will be 10x plus, let's say c is 20. We now have 20 here. We now know that if I solve this, if I do this arithmetic, it will give me y. So if I want to create this formula in Excel, say this formula is not part of the formulas that came with Excel by default, I'll come to my cell. Let me just use this cell as an example. Let me use this. So this particular part as example. So I can have in this place, I can have x, the value for x in this place. Say x is equal to -2, 1, -3, different values for x. Everything is in this place. Then I can now come here and say, I'll call this place y. I will now say equal to, open bracket, 10x. Remember, x is already saved in this previous column, A2. So instead of me saying x now, I will now define it as, I will now type it as A2. So I'll say equal to, open bracket, 10. Then I can open another bracket, or I can decide not to open another bracket, but it's best practice to open another bracket. So inside that another bracket, I will now type A2, meaning that I have referenced the cell that is here, plus 20. I'll close my bracket again. So here, instead of showing that formula, it is going to show the value of my y. So that means that I have successfully created a formula in Excel. Then you can then save that formula somewhere and call it equation of a straight line. So if you want to do for other values, maybe you have a lot of value for x and you want to know what is the corresponding value for that y. So you can just click and drag it down. Or you come here, you copy it, you paste it here, you copy it, you paste it there. You don't need to continually change the value of the x, because when we specify A2, we do not use any dollar sign, and that is relative referencing. So when you do that, it automatically takes the value of the A2 that is relative to the first one that you define. So that is how we create a formula in Excel. We can apply cell referencing when create a formula if we have the value in another cell already. And that is what I just explained. So let's proceed. So Excel has a library of predefined formula, which I've mentioned that in case your formula is not there, you can write your own. So to use these formulas, we go to the formula tab. Remember, we talked about tabs yesterday. You see insert function. If you click on the insert function, it looks like f of x sign like this. Then you select a category, because this formula are now being grouped into category. Some of them are logical, some of them are arithmetical, some of them are statistical, some of them like that. So based on the category of the formula you want to use, some of them are trigonometry. So you just click the category and you see options. For instance, now here I have category logical in this part. So this is insert function. If you click insert function, you see this pop up. So you say you select a category, you can search for your formula. Let's say I'm looking for formula of a straight line. I can just type straight line in this box. If it is available, it will show me. If I'm looking for formula of, let me look for something that is quite advanced. If I'm looking for formula of, okay, let's say specific latent, this now science stuff. So if you say specific latent heat, maybe I forgot and I want to see where Excel has it. So I'll just type specific latent heat, and then if it is there, it show me that it is there. But in case I don't know, I can just come here, look at the categories that are available. Is there anything on its capacity? If there's anything on its capacity, I know that that's where I'll find specific latent heat. So because I'm doing logical stuff now, equal to and sum, so I can just come here, you see all the logical functions that are available. I'll click the one that I need and it will automatically fill it into the cell that I am on in Excel. Let us proceed. I hope you are getting me. So here are some common formulas in Excel. We quickly look at them, look at what they do, how do we use them. And if you look at all the formulas, you see that I started with equal to. I typed in the function, the name of the function. So the first one is sum. Then I followed it by a closed bracket, open bracket and close. I mean, open brace and close brace. So inside that open brace and close brace is where I'll specify the value. It can be a cell referencing, it can be a numeric value, it can be a string, it can be a text value, and like that, based on the function. I mean, oh yeah, based on the function that I want to perform. So what does sum does? It performs the mathematical operation of addition. That is when we want to add values together. It gives the total of a selected range of cells. So that is sum. What does average does? Average and mean, they do the same thing. So it gives the total of the average value of the cell selected. So I also said that this function can be used to calculate the mean. Count and count A. Count A is like the short version for count all. Yes, you will not find count all in Excel, but instead of them saying count all, they just say count A. So what count without the A does is that it counts the numeric value in the range that you provide. Remember now, range is, let's say, A2 to A50. All the cells that are between that A2, A3, A4, A5, that is a range. So if you do count, it just returns the count of all the cells. Yes, it counts all the cells. Count containing numbers. Yes, it counts all the cells containing number in the selected range. So count all, whether it is numerical or it is not numeric, whether it is empty or it is not empty. It counts all of the cells, all of the cells, all of the cells. We also have count null. That we just count only the empty cells and return it for you. So the count function goes like that. We also have the left and the right function. So this one also does a particular kind of count, but in this case, it does a character count. So let me say I have in a cell, I have secondary. Okay, let me not say secondary. Let me say in a cell, I have, trying to look for a good example. Okay, let's just use somebody's name. So we have different names. We have one column for surname, we have another column for first name, we have another column for middle name. So I want to look for the person that has the longest surname. That is the surname that has the most character. So I can use left. So if I use left, it counts the character from the left until a particular, let me see, yes. So left function gives a number of character from the start of a string, yes, from the start of a string, while the right returns the number of character from the ending of a string. So this will ask me that, oh, you want to count this character from here to here. Where do you want me to stop? So I can count the character from the front of it, that is from the left, and then to a particular point. Then I get the names with the highest number. Then also I can count from the back. So that is what left and right does. We have upper, we have proper, and we have lower. So these ones are for case, that is letter case. This one converts all the letters, all the alphabet into uppercase. This one converts the letters in a text to a proper case, meaning that the first letter converts the first letter of every word in a text to uppercase. So it just takes the first letter and converts it to uppercase. Then we have lower. It converts all the text to a lowercase. One of the formulas we also have is round up. Maybe after your calculation, you have decimal place, you want to round up, you want to round it up to the nearest digit. Just use round up. We also have length. Length does the counts from the beginning to the end. What left what left and right does is that left counts from the left to a particular point in the string or in the text, while right counts from the right to a particular point in the text. But length counts everything, including space, including the including the trailing space in the front and the trailing space in the back. Length, L-E-N, len is the short form of length. Yeah, so they just short it to make it easy to write. So I just pronounce the whole of it and then so that it's easier for me to pronounce the whole of it. So we have trim. Trim deletes it's just like you want to trim a word. So it deletes any space that comes before a character, like a normal character, or any space that comes after a character. Based on human error, we can type something and leave space at the end of it. So if we don't want to include that space in our calculation, we can just move the space. Okay, we have subtotal. Yeah, this subtotal is a little bit unique from some. Yes. You know, this subtotal can be a little bit confusing for beginners, but then subtotal is a very good function in Excel, like one of the function that you find useful because at the end of the day, it can do all the calculation that most of the arithmetic does. You can use subtotal to do almost everything. You can use subtotal to do maximum, you can use subtotal to do minimum, you can use subtotal to do average, you can use subtotal to do standard deviation, you can use subtotal to count, to do sum. And instead of you just saying, okay, I want to do it vertically and horizontally, one by one, no, you can actually use subtotal to do like, when you are doing I want to like explain in the best case where subtotal is very, very effective is that, okay, let's say we have different subjects. You know how a report sheet used to look like. We have math, English, physics, chemistry, and biology. If you want to find the total of somebody's score in all of that subject or a class in all of that subject, you select all of them together. But in this case, if you want to do for only math and biology, you know that there is two different subjects between them, which is English and say chemistry. So we have math in, let's say, the first column, then we have English, chemistry, biology. But you want to do the average of whatever this person score in maths, and you also want to do for whatever this person score in biology. But you don't want to select what is here. You can just use subtotal. So if you type subtotal, it will allow you to select your first reference. It will also allow you to select your second reference, and then it will allow you to input the operation you want to do. So it is that very, very easy and straightforward. Instead of you moving up cells and say, I want to move biology here so that they are side by side, and my reference will be very easy. Subtotal does not really need all those moving around. You can just select different references. Even if they're on different sheets, you can select different references. As long as they're on the same workbook, it is able to like do your calculation for you. So concatenate, by what it means, you can use it to join two strings together and put like a separator in between it. Replace is like, oh, I want to find this thing and replace it. Let's say somebody in your class has changed their name, or let's say somebody in the organization is being promoted and you want to replace his position. So you can just find, if you type replace, you input the text you are finding and what you want to replace it with, and then it replace it. Let's say it is even like a formula and you want to replace a constant. Let's say the constant you have been using before is like 0.5. Maybe to boost people's performance, you are multiplying it by 0.5. And now you want to boost it by 2%. You just multiply it by 2 and then it goes up. So you just use replace 0.5 with 2. So that is what replace does. So this date allows us to convert date string to a date time format. Yes. Like yesterday when I was explaining dates that wanted to use the general short date and it was converting that year into a day, month, and year format. We can actually use this date, we can actually use this date formula to specify our date string into a date format, and we just select only for the year. But if you are using this date function, you need to have good understanding of it because the options are they are much, like the option varies. So if you are not very conversant with the options, you might not know, or you might not know which one of it that you will need to use for the kind of date format that you need. Yes. So the power does what it says. It can use it to do raised to power 2, raised to power 3, raised to power 4. And you will also know that for every exponential, there must be like a, let me not say logarithm. For every power now, there must be a square root. So if I'm doing raised to power 2, there is also square root, which is bringing it back by 2. So if you are doing raised to power 3, there is cube root, which is bringing it back to the level of multiplying it times. Yes. So we also have all those functions in Excel. So every function in Excel has its own syntax, a unique or arranging argument. To avoid error, it is important that we know how to follow the syntax. So let me quickly also say this, that Excel is so easy. Like that was one of the things that we emphasized yesterday. That once you know what the syntax, the name of the function that you want to use, if you type equal to and the name of that function, say I type equal to average now, Excel will give me like a guide to follow in order to implement the formula correctly. And I'll be showing us that once we get to the practical session. So what this means is that, let's say I type equal to average. It gives me the autocomplete option to autocomplete what I mean. So I hope we are still following. I'm trying to be as fast as possible. Yeah, so practical class, creating basic formulas in Excel. So after this, we have data manipulation in Excel. So in order not to overwhelm us with what we have seen, I want us to like do a little bit of practical on cell referencing and basic formulas in Excel. And then we can now come back and look at data manipulation in Excel. Although we are still going to be using functions for the data manipulation, but let us quickly do like a quick hands-on on cell referencing and essential formulas. Okay, so allow me to switch my screen to Excel. So I'll be using the data that we used yesterday. So I'll be loading it quickly. So now for those of us that were not around yesterday, you can actually see how to properly load a data set into Excel. So let me quickly do this. So give me a minute, please. Okay. I just want to load up my Excel and make sure I'm sharing it properly. Mm. Yeah, now you should be seeing my Excel sheet. So yeah, you should be seeing my Excel sheet. So one thing I want to do very quickly is that we downloaded the data yesterday. The facilitators will be helping us drop the link to the data in the chat also so that we can see. I mean, for those of us that don't have the data already, we can download it for our use. So the name of the data is AIED1. So that's the data I'll be getting. So to get the data into Excel, I'll come to data here. I come to get data. Because my data is in CSV format, I do CSV and then it boosts up my file manager for me. And yeah, so I come here, I think it's under document. Yeah, this is the name of the data. So if I click it now and I import it, so this imports my data without touching the original version of the data. So it just do like a duplicate of it and it shows me my data. So I have this, it is intact, and then I put it into Excel. Okay. So 75 rows are loaded successfully. I can close this query part. I don't really need it. Now the data is in Excel and it is looking neat and ready. So except that maybe I need to put this as currency and I need to put this in percentage. So one of the things I want to do now is that I want to quickly show us what I mean by referencing. So I'm looking at the best way to do the three types of referencing by example. Okay, so I can reference 2000. Okay, now let's quickly look at something together. Let's say I want to do like the price of this chain. Yeah, the sales of this chain multiplied by the rating. I want to see, I want to see okay, the rating is actually from 0 to 1. Yeah, so the one with the highest rating is actually 1. So I want to do like sales multiplied by rating. I can actually come here and I'm looking for a name to give that metric. I don't think there is. Let me just say, okay, let me say, um, I don't want to say this. I want to say something score. Let me just call it rate score. Let me just call it rate score. Don't know if that's a valid metric actually, but I'm just trying to make sure it makes sense. So I'm calling it rate score. And by rate score, I want to do sales multiplied by rates. Yeah, sales multiplied by rates. So the ones that have lower rates, the price will come down. The one that have higher rates, the one that has their rate as 1, they will maintain their price. And the one that has lower rates, we actually come down. So let me do this. So I want to reference. So I don't want to be typing this multiplied by this all the time. So if I want to write the formula, remember that we type starts with. So let me increase my screen a little bit so that we all can see that. Oh, this is tricky. Okay, yeah. So that did not work. That did not work. Let me just come here and do this then. Since that did not work. So everybody can see very well. Okay. So I'll just do this. Equal to, I can open my bracket and say, so I said the best way to reference a cell is to come to that cell and click on it. So because I want to reference D2, so instead of me typing D2, it is easier for me to come here and click it. So we see that when I click it, it's referenced it. This is the name of the sheet, AIED1. Then it's referenced sales, meaning that the column, because this is the first entry, that's why it is selecting, is referencing the whole column as sales. Well, yeah, if you want to type it, you can just type D2. Then I want to do multiplied by, this is just like an hyperlink, or let's say a link mask. But the original entry that is under this text is actually D2 to D76. It's just saying that's the entire column for sales. So I can just type my multiplication operator and then I'll come to E2 and I click it. Yeah, once I click it, it also does the same thing. So if I close the brace and I press enter, we realize that 0.75 of 20,000 is 15,000. So this is, so instead of calling it rate score, it's not looking like a score, it's looking more like another kind of price. So let me say, I don't want to say, let me just call it something price. Let me just call it something price. I don't know what particular price to call it, but this is basically for the purpose of explanation. This is not any valid calculation. So what I mean by, what you see what we mean by relative referencing now. So what we mean by relative referencing is now that I can just click this and drag it down. It fills it with what is relative to what I have done here. So 0.22 of 3,700 is 814. 0.22 of 4,000 is 880. So I don't need to always go back and type this multiplied by this multiplied by this. So this is relative referencing. So I want to delete this and show us, because yeah, and show us how it's supposed to be, how it is in my slide. So if we do equal to D2, I want to type it now, I don't want to click it because the way Excel marks that formula, D2, yes, multiplied by, I want to use open brackets, D2 multiplied by E2. And I press enter. So we see that we still have the same thing, right? So I can also just come down. So you see the formula here, D2 multiplied by E2. So I can, if you come here and you double click, yes, if you come here and you double click, okay, that's not working at the moment. So that's supposed to do like kind of flash fill. So let me just drag it down. And then we see that it will automatically fill up the whole value with respect, and this is what I want to show us. So if you look at this, it did not just copy 23,000, it did D68, which is here, D68 multiplied by E68. Yeah, so it's going to make everything relative. You see the way I come down, B70 multiplied by E70, B71 multiplied by E71. So that. So that is relative referencing. Now let's go to absolute referencing. Let's go to absolute referencing. So I want to delete, I want to, okay, let me just leave it and then do it somewhere else. So I'll call this relative score. I think I've seen, or relative price. That should look more exemplary. That should give more example description than just saying relative score. Let me now say absolute score. Yeah, so for this absolute score, I want to take the median of all the ratings. Yes. Yeah. I want to take the median of all the rating and use it as a constant to multiply all the price. So it is just like it's a simple logic. So I want to make example of two formulas at once. I want to take the median of all the ratings, meaning that if rearranging all these ratings now, I want to take the median and then use it as a constant, which is going to be use it as an absolute to multiply all the sales. So I'm trying to do absolute referencing. Yeah, that is what I'm trying to do. So if I come here, I'm coming down here and I'll say median rating, median rating. And yeah, that's the name of median rating. And then I want to do is equal to median. So I just type median and then it suggests it for me. That's why I said Excel is very easy. So it's telling me that what's my first number, what's my second number, what's my third number. But in this case, I have a range. So I'll just go to the beginning of my data. I click it, can click it and drag it to the end. But if your data is quite numerous, let's say you have a lot of data, you can click the first one. And let me just close my bracket and put enter. So the median of all these ratings is 0.48. So I want to delete this and show us another way to do it. So if you do median, and then, so if your data is like, say you have 10,110,000 entries, so you can click the first one, press, control down will take us to the end of the data. So, and if you want to highlight as you navigate to the end of the data, you can press shift. So I just do control and I also do shift and I press down. So it will take me to the end of my data. You see that was fast. And then it's selected. Since everything is selected, it appears in my referencing and I can just close brackets. So now I want to take this median rating as a constant. So I'll come here and say, because I want to do absolute score, say is equal to, yes. Now, yeah. So I want to do this sales, which is relative. I want the sales to be relative. Like as I go down, let my formula continue to increase. So let me do open bracket. I'll say D2. Multiplied by. Now, I want to come here and make this one absolute. Now, absolute in the sense that I want to make it constant. So I'll do dollar sign. Remember, it is under E. So we say E and then dollar sign again. That is absolute, absolute. E what? E78. So if I close my brackets and I press enter, so the absolute score for this guy is 9,600. Now what I did is I took the score, I multiplied it by a median. Remember that median is constant. So I want to quickly show us something. So let me type some random rates under here. Let me just type 0.01. Let me type 0.02. Let me type 0.03 just to make my explanation more understandable. Now, because I have made the rating to be constant, ordinarily when we click and we drag it down, or we copy it, or we double click this button, this plus sign, we double click it, You're supposed to do relative referencing, that is the one that is here multiplied by the one that is next to it, meaning that D2 multiplied by E78. So if I'm doing for the one that is under it, relative referencing will tell me that I'm supposed to do D3 multiplied by E79. But because E79 is absolute, it will only do D3 multiplied by the same E79. Now let's check that. Let's go to the end. Yes. So we have that. So now let's click this formula and see what it does. You see, D76 multiplied by the same E78. Let's go up. I want you to see that it did not pick this 0.01. It did not pick this 0.02. It did not pick this 0.03 because I have made this one to be absolute. So let's see if at any point it picked 0.01. So let's investigate it. E78 still. Let's investigate it more. E78 still. Let's investigate it more. E78. So this is what we mean by absolute score. Then we have mixed score. Let's just do mixed score and see how that works. Okay. Uh, okay, so we have mixed score now. So mixed score is that, okay, yes, I want to do, I want it to be relative across the column, but I don't want it to be relative across the row. So it means that I can specify, okay, yeah, so let's do this now. Let's do this combination, the combination of this and the combination of this, of the median. So in this case now, I want to multiply this relative score by the median. I want to use it to do example of the absolute. So you remember that for the relative now, for the relative, we did D2 multiplied by E2, and it is relative across the row, like it is relative through the row, throughout the row. Now, if I want it to be relative across the column, I can actually do that too. So I want to do something. I want to do equal to D2. Okay. So Excel is warning me of something. So let's say D2. So this one is going to be relative throughout. Everything as I go down is going to be relative. Multiplied by. Now, in this case, I only want to use, if I say E2, E2 now means that as I am going down for D2, I'll also be going down for E2. But I don't want to go down for E2 like that. I want to have something like E, the E should be there, then the 2 should remain constant. So instead of me putting dollar sign in front of, I'll put dollar sign in front of E. And then, sorry. And then I will not put dollar sign in front of 2. Now, this is mixed referencing, meaning that the E will remain constant and then the 2 will continue to increase. So I'll have, yeah, so, okay, this explanation is not the best to explain mixed referencing. But what I want to explain is that I can actually, the way I'm increasing through the row, I can actually increase across the column like that too. But this example is not the best. So let's look at something else. Let's look at something else. Okay, let's say I have this, and this now. So I want to add up everything here, and I don't want it to affect what is under. Let me try that. So let me say, let me try that. So let me say D is constant. No, D is a variable, 2 is constant. Okay, this is constant, and then let me say E is a variable, 2 is constant. Yeah, so okay. Let me use plus. So I just want to show us how that mixed referencing used to behave. Yeah, so I have so it's this plus this, right? So if I extend this formula across the row or through like this, yes, let me just extend it to this point. I mean that's not the formula. Let me just extend it through like this. Yes. So we can actually see that yeah, some calculations happened. So let's investigate it. So this one did D2 plus D E2. This one we do E2 plus F2. This one we do F2 plus G2. This one we do G2 plus H2, meaning that it is moving like this, forward like this, G plus H. The next one will do H plus I. The next one will do I plus J, and like that until we get to K plus L. If I add one more, it will do L plus M. Yeah, if I add one more, it will do L plus M. Now, even if I now highlight all these things now, I now drag it down. You see that it's the same value, meaning that it did not add up anything row wise because I've kept the row constant. I've kept the row constant. I have dollar sign that is mixed. So we can actually increase across the column and keep it constant through the row. So let me quickly do something again. Let me just remove this dollar sign and keep this one relative. We will see the pattern that it will give us this time around. So you see that one will be constant, the other one will increase. Okay, okay, that's because okay, let's just do this first. And then let's do this next. Yeah, so if we look at it now, some values are changing. So some values are increasing. This one increased from 75, 22, 22, 56, while some of them are constant throughout. Some have changed. So because this and this are added together, this and this are added together, so the value increases, but some of them remain constant through the row. Whatever is here is added to whatever is here to give us this plus this will give us this, and then this plus something else. That is why the value is, if you look at this now, this is also constant throughout. So if your formula needs some row to be constant and then some columns to be constant and then some rows to be variable based on how you want your calculation to be done. This is just to explain mixed referencing, absolute referencing, and relative referencing. So let's quickly go to the formulas and then let's go back to our data sets. So I'm going to reduce this and delete some of the things we don't need so we can experiment some formulas. Why is this still not reduced? Okay, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to be deleting all of this so that can have our data sets back. So one of the things one of the formulas I want to experiment, I want to demo for us is concatenate. So here we have category and we have product name. So I want to bring the category and product name together so that I have it in one string. I'll just say clothing hyphen short. So let's see how that works. So let's quickly use concatenate to demo that. So I have, let me see, product details. So I can use concatenate to write a kind of product details. So I'll just say equal to concatenate. Yeah, that's concat. So the first text I want to concat is chain. I want to separate it by a comma. So yeah, I want to separate it by space. Okay, yeah, comma is fine. Comma is like the best way to separate text. So I want to say chain is under component. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Chain is under component. So that is under, is not in my table. So I can actually specify it with quotes. Is under, then, so you see, is under, I put a space so that the components can come in. So this is under is a text on its own. I can separate it with comma, and then I click components. So that's another text. So in this case, I am concatenating three texts together. The first one is in my table, so I'm referencing it. Chain is under is not in my table, so I'm writing it as a string, as a text. Is under, and I put a space in front of it. Then the third one is also in my table, components. So I'm doing chain is under components. So if I press enter, you see how that behaves. So we can see that there's one issue here right now. So there is no space before is. So I can adjust my formula to say, oh, in this code, put a space before, and then we have chains under components. So we know what to do. We can actually do like a flash fill or a quick fill. So if you double click here, it's not working. Sometimes I get lucky and it works. Most of the time when I'm using Google Sheets, it works in Excel too. If you just write your formula and you come here and you double click it, drag outside selection to extend the series of fill. Yeah, drag inside to clear. Yeah, so it's telling me that that's no. So I'll just, I don't know if you see what I did just now. So what I did is after I double clicked it, it's supposed to do a quick fill for me. So I just investigate or I checked it. If you look at the sheet name under it, you see one instruction of, because I'm clicking down now, it's telling me what I can do. So it's telling me that I can drag outside to extend the series, or I can drag inside to clear it, meaning that if I go up, it will delete it. If I come down, it will extend it. So we see that it is actually extending. We have socks is under clothing, socks is under clothing. We have bed short is under clothing, and bib short is under clothing. We have short is also under clothing, just relative to. So this is what concatenate can do for you. Yeah, this is what concatenate can do for you. And then we can go on and on like that till we get to the end. Yes, till we get to the end. So chain is under component, touring bike is under bike, and like that we continue. So we can get a lot of details with concatenate. So I also want to do I want to do left. So let's quickly use left to count the values, number of entry in some of this cell. So that is one of the formulas. Let's not forget that we still have data manipulation. So these are just explaining basic formulas and functions. So if you type equal to and you type cell, type left, yes. So telling me that, okay, text. So the text is, I want to use this text. Then it's saying number of characters. So I want to get like, okay, I want to get like the first 6 characters. If I put 6 here, it will get the first 6 characters for me. That is change. So if I extend it down, so it gets the first 6 characters for all of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Even there's a space here. This one is 6, this one is 6. So that is what left can do. Right can also get the last number of character that I specify. Also, let me just change this to length and see and show us what length can do. Length just take one argument, which is just text. So if you enter it saying this has 26 characters, if I come down, it will give me the number of characters. This one has 31 characters, this one has 26, 29 characters. So based on the example that I gave the other time, that I want to know the person that has the longest surname in the class. So once you do length and you put in the surname value, yes, you put length and you put in the surname value, then it will give you the number of character that is in the surname. So you can quickly come and find the person that has the longest surname in the class, even if the class has up to like 2,000 students. So if you do equal to maximum, this one will find the one that the value that has the maximum value. So the entry that has the maximum value. Then we specify our cell range. How do we specify the cell range? How to do that by clicking on it. So I'll do the first one and then Ctrl Shift down. So you see it has specified age true to age 76. So it means that this is 36. How do I now know where 36 is in this place? So I know this is 36. So I can just I can just come here and do Control F and find 36. So we can find next. Okay, there are a lot of 36 here, but that is not yeah, so this has 36. So if it is were to be somebody's name, I'll just know that this person is the one that has value of 36. So I don't need to look through the entire sheet to find the person that has 36 value. So that is how that can be done. I also want to show us the formulas and see all the functions that are possible. So I come to this formula tab, I click insert functions. Yeah, so in this insert functions, you can see type a brief description of what you want to do and then click on go. So let me say, let's go back to that our equation of a straight line. So let me just say straight line. And then let me click go and let's see what Excel has under straight line. So Excel is saying that yes, I can do a straight line with line straight, SLN and VDB. So if I click line straight, so we see a brief description of what it does under it. Returns statistics that describe a linear trend matching the known data points by fitting a straight line using least square method. So this one is like, oh, it returns like a value. So this is the argument. Known y's. This is the known value of y. Let's say we have a particular value of a row containing value of y. We also have a row containing value of x. And we also have a row containing constants. And then maybe we also have like, say, this stats. I'm trying to look at what variable we need. So this one will just use least square method and return a descriptive value by fitting the line, a straight line on the data point. Maybe this most likely can be like a correlation description. Okay, this data is fitted, this data is not fitted, there is high variance. So that is what this function can do for us. This is like more like some statistical stuff. Let's look at what this SLN can do. So it returns the straight line depreciation of an asset for one period. So this one does cost, salvage, and life. I mean, I'm sure that this life is actually a time series stuff. Let's look at what the VDB can do. So this one is also on cost, salvage, life, start period, end period, factors, and etc. So what I'm just trying to tell us that Excel has a lot of function that comes predefined with it. And this function, like I said before, we need to know what they do before we can say we are using them correctly. Just, I'm sure this is my first time of seeing this VDP, and I'm sure it's going to be like the first time of many of us. So I don't know what it does, but I can still use my understanding to know what this line ST does, because I know what straight least square method, what it does ordinarily. So based on what you search for, Excel has some functions that is already predefined in it. I'm sure if you search for, if you know analysis of variance and you search analysis of variance, Excel has functions that can do ANOVA for you. Let's just see what that's so it's saying it does not understand ANOVA. Let's now do analysis of variance. I just want you to see that it has like a wide range of function that okay. So it does not have that too. Let's just do test. See, I want to do tests and see if it has any function we can use to do test. Yeah, so it has chi-square test, it has chi test, it has fit, it has z test. I'm sure. So it has a lot of his formula, is even, his error, is blank, and etc. like that. So you can see that Excel has a lot of formula in its deck for us to use. So the common ones that we use are the ones that are listed outside here. The first one is auto sum, which is sum. We can actually find average, count of numbers, max and mean. We also have financial. That is when this one is basically for people that prepare balance sheets, cash book, and etc. So they know what all of these functions are, and they are able to use it. So you see that it comes down to knowing what the function is and how to use it. So another common one is logical. So you can do one cell and another cell. You can do by column. You can do an operation by row. You can do false, if error, if NA, if it's like combining multiple conditions together. You can also make a lambda parameter. You can do or, nor, X or, etc. For switch, so we have seen concat, which is the one I used here. We also have length. We also have lower, upper, middle. Some of them I've explained. We have search. We have text split. We have text join. So if you have time, just go through the functions. If you, the ones that are applicable, you can master them so that you know what they do. We have the date time too. This is part of what I included in my slide. We have days 360, we have e-dates, etc. like that. So we have lookup and reference. This one is also part of what we'll be learning during this class. I've explained referencing to us. We have H lookup, we have filter, we have field values, we have X lookup, we have index and match, we have X lookup, X match, VStack, we have unique, we have transpose. Yes, you can actually use sort and sort by and other functions that are in Excel like that. So this is one of the amazing functions that Excel has for mathematics calculation. We have all the trigonometry functions here, whether you have numbers and you want to do cosine, tangent, cosec sine, and the likes. So you can actually come around here and just click it. Even if you want to do like a radian number, a quotient number, you want your number to be in degrees, you find all of them here, degrees, decimal. In fact, LCM is funny. So you have LCM here, so in Excel, you just click it and it does your LCM for you. So you have log and then you have anti-log and like that. So more functions in Excel for statistician, engineering, and even for web guys too. So Excel has a lot of functions. So in fact, if you just know what to search for, just come to insert function and search for it. If it is there, it will definitely pop up. If you are using the right keyword, just search and then it should come up if you use the right keywords to search before you go ahead and start creating your own functions. Okay, So let's quickly go back to okay, yeah, so I've covered cell referencing, I've covered some functions, thinking is there anything I need to cover before we go back to our slide? Okay, so let's go back to our slide then. If there's anything else, we can always come back and do a demo session. Please, if you understand this practical part, can you just react on the chat so that I know that you are still following me? I know that you are still following me. Yes, if you have questions, you can gather your thoughts together. You can drop them on the chat, you pick them at a more convenient time, or you can just write them down. And when we are taking questions, we can take your question. So back to my slide. Okay, yeah, I think we are back to my slide. So yeah, data manipulation in Excel. Now that we have seen a little bit of practical, I'm sure we'll wrap our head around this more and then we have more clarity about it. So yes, for text data, we can do some manipulation. So data manipulation and cleaning can be done with the help of functions. Yes, like we did for contacts. You can see that we manipulated the category and the product to have a product details. So like that is just simple. That's what we mean by simple manipulation. And based on what we did, we can also do some other advanced manipulation and cleaning. We can replace something for with another thing. You can extract a word from a particular text. You can actually clean values from a particular text. If your number is written in one format, you can manipulate it to have a suitable format for you. And with the help of some of the functions that we'll be looking at now, you see how far we can go with Excel functions and formula. Yeah, that's the topic for this session, like using functions and formula. And then we look at pivot tables too. So one of the functions that we are looking at is the substitute. From the name, you can see this function is like the replace function. It is used to replace a specific character or a string within a cell. So if you specify substitute, you specify the cell that has the specify a cell that has the text that you want to substitute. Then you search for the particular thing you want to substitute for, and then you replace it with you specify what you want to replace it with. So here is how it works. Let's say I have a column that has continuous tense. Say raining, jumping, dancing. So I want to replace all the ing with ed to make a past tense. Now, English does not work like that. English does not follow logic like completely. Although they still follow logic, but they don't do it completely. So let's say we want to use that logic to form past tense from continuous tense. So I can say, okay, the cell that has continuous tense, ing. So I can say, okay, equal to substitute. I specify the cell A2. So I put comma and I search for ing. Then I put comma and I put replace with ed and I close it and I press enter. I'll automatically form a past tense from a continuous tense. That is one of the manipulation we can do like that. So this also goes for simple tasks like doing country code, like doing company name, and like that. Let's say country code with all the people that filled our form, they specified +234. And a we're actually using a platform that takes their number as 080 or 091. So we want to remove all the +234 and replace it with 0. Can actually use the substitute for that case and then we are good to go. So this is very similar to the find and search. So let's quickly look at the find and search. They are both used to return a position of a string. So in this case, find and search are case sensitive. Okay, so for the search, you specify the text that you want to search, the text where you want to search it, you specify what you are searching for, and you specify where you want to start. The same thing for the find. So the difference is that find is case sensitive, meaning that if you are looking for a particular thing and you are saying, okay, I'm looking for a cat, and you say capital letter C, it is not going to find things that start with small letter C. But if you use search, it is going to search everywhere, whether it is small letter C or capital letter C. We also have the clean function. The clean function is used to clean objects, characters that are not printable. What I mean by characters that are not printable is, okay, I'm sure many of us are familiar with some of these characters that when we type them, we don't see them, meaning that they are not on the keyboard. Example of those character is backspace, enter. You don't, when you type it, you don't see a character, meaning that it is not printable. But in some encoding that is in the original language of the computer, those characters are symbol. And sometimes they might find their way into us seeing them in Excel. So if you want to clean those characters that are not printable, that we cannot see, that's when we use the clean function. Let's say you are doing the web scraping and then they have encoded, let's say their text with, if they use UTF-8 encoding, it should be okay. But let's say they used something like trying to look for another encoding that is not common. Let's say there is another encoding, and then somehow, when you scrape or you copy from that internet, from that page, you begin to see characters like enter, like paragraph, like tab. You know, tab, when you press tab on your keyboard, you don't see anything, it is blank. It just gives a space. But if that website is encoded with another, is built with another encoding, you copy it, you might end up seeing that tab. Like you just give it as one symbol. In this case, that tab is not printable. So you can clean it in your Excel using the clean function. So we also have the mid. This mid stands for middle. Remember, we have left, we have right, which we use left to extract text from the left. We use right to extract text from the right. We can extract text from the middle with mid. So I'm trying to be fast. So we also have text to column. Text to column is like, oh, I have name, surname. I can split the two of them into two separate columns. So these are also things that we can do in Excel. So just like the way we did left and right, so you can just do text to column and then you separate it with a unique separator. Normally, when you are doing surname and you are separating it, you always separate it with the space that is between the first name and the last name. We say separate it. Whenever you see space, put them in different columns. So if you are also doing something like trying to see another example where text to column can actually, yes, if you are doing something like email address. So maybe we have actually created a form for people to fill, and then they fill their company email and they fill their company name. So we want to see people that are actually using company email and they are working in the company that they specify. We want to see people that are maybe are doing dual jobs or something like that, or maybe people that just have a company email that is dummy and then they are working in a standard company. So you can actually, email is always like, oh, my name at my company name dot my domain, meaning that if my name is Olamide and my company is glasses, my name is going to be my name at glasses.com. You get. So if I want to like do text to column, I can separate my text with that at symbol. So it separates my name into one column and it separates my company into another column, meaning glasses.com. So if in that form again, I've specified that now I work at shoes.com. You see that my email, my work email is now different from where I work. So that can give a sense that, oh, I have two jobs, I have a dummy email, and like that, and like that. So you can actually filter some behavioral indicators from that using just Excel to do some analysis. In fact, I'm sure if you are doing using Python to do that, you have to learn test split, string split, test and the likes. You do I loop, I location and the likes, but just click in Excel. You already have that kind of problem solved. So we have consolidate. Consolidate merge data from multiple source, and then it merge everything for a streamlined analysis. Just like, oh, this one is from this source, this one is from SQL, this one is from Azure, this one is from CSV. I uploaded this one. Can consolidate everything together. At the end of consolidation, your data might look dirty, but it will be easier to clean in Excel because it is Excel that consolidated the data. So pivot table straightforward, we don't have much time again. And after this pivot table, we go back to Excel to do some practical. Okay, we have seen table in Excel. The first data that we imported or that we brought to Excel is a table. Now, in real sense, or probably when we have data cleaning task, data analysis, dashboard preparation task, our data is always voluminous, has volume, and it's sometimes they will even tell you that is real-time data, like your data is being streamed. You can actually stream data into Excel too. So you can't probably do your analysis on the whole of the table, and some things are not important for what you are looking for. This is where pivot table comes in. It's a form of table that summarizes a bigger spreadsheet into a simple and easy to understand sheet. Most of the time, pivot simply means increasing or highlighting what is important to you. If you have a very big table, you can actually just increase what is important to you. So it's just like having a law a bedspread. Let's just use that as an example. It's just like having a bedspread, and there is a part of that bedspread that's stained. So that is the part that you want to, let's say you want to wash. You don't want to wash the whole of the bed sheet. So you can just pick that part. When you pick that part will come up and then the remaining parts will be down. Yeah, so what you do is like pivoting that part that is stained. So you can actually pivot column, value, rows in your table, and then that is the only part that you'll be seeing. And then that is what is next in our table, because when you do calculations most of the time, all these formulas and like, sometimes you want to have a very summarized table that will explain the whole of your sheet to you. So how do you do this pivot table? So provided you have a huge data set in Excel, below a step-by-step guide to create a pivot table. Go to Insert tab under the table group. So there is a group that is table, there's a tab insert. So under the insert tab, you can insert table. So under that table, click pivot, like you want to insert a pivot table. Now, because this is insert, it's going to create a new table different from the one you are working on. So it is better to create it on another sheet in the same workbook. So here you create pivot table window will pop up. So in this window, you can actually, the window looks something like the one you are seeing here. Yes. So this is the create pivot table field. So you choose the different things that you want to see. Now, the most important one is the value. So if you want to see value of particular things, what you want to know is the prices or the age, whatever thing that is important to you is the one that you put in this value section. So in this case, just a click and drag stuff. So I have this columns in my data already. I have year, category, product, sales, and rating. I can just click and drag anyone. So because I want to see sales, the what I want to see that is important to me is sale. I click sale and I bring it to this value part. Now, in what level do I want to see the sales? Okay, I want to see the sales by category, meaning that for this particular category, how many sales do we have? So my role is going to be my category, meaning I'll drag this category to the rows. So I'm pivoting my table now. I don't want to see that big spreadsheet again. So another thing is that, okay, column, how many column do I need? So here, I only want to see category and how much is being sold. So I don't need too much column. My table is one dimension. But if I want a two-dimension table, that's when I start filling this category, this column space. This filter also allows me to filter my, if I want to filter this by a particular entry, maybe I have dates, so I can actually filter by year. So let's see how that works. So we've seen how to create a table when the pop-up window comes up, you specify the location you want your table to be in. I've said that. Then a new worksheet is open with a pivot table view to the left. This allows us to drag and few. No, this is not the correct expression. This allows us to drag and fill into 4 different areas, which are filter, column, rows, and value. And I've explained all of that. Yeah, so basically I've explained this. So here is what my pivot table looks like after explaining. So I'll just explain again. So I have sales as my value, and in my category, in my rows, I have clothing in my rows. I have clothing in my rows. So that's why you can see this. So the operation that I performed or the summarization that I perform is sum. Sometimes you can perform other kind of summarization. So if you read through this, you see that the value area is what holds the calculation or the values. We can quickly calculate total sales, which is what I did here. For the row, the heading to the left of the value area makes the row area, that is, the row area is what level do you want your sum to be done? And that is what makes up the row area. The column, the heading at the top of the value area makes the column area. In this example, we do not specify the column because we want a one-dimension table. That is, we only want one value. So we don't really need the column. So filter area is optional. They allow us to further drill down in the data sets and view the data by groups they belong to, meaning that you can actually filter your data maybe by year or by category. So one important thing I want to mention is that we can click on any cell. Okay, we can actually specify the kind of summarization we want to do. So to do that, we click on any cell in the value column, right-click it, go to field settings, and then you see the different kinds of summarization that can be done. Okay, yeah, before I was going to demo, now we can actually go and demo pivot table. Yeah, we've demoed a little bit of data cleaning before. And I also want to demo subtotal because subtotal is, so as like I said, subtotal is a little bit, it requires a little bit more knowledge because it allows us to do all of this. It allows us to do average, count all, max, mean, product name, standard deviation population, sum, variance, and variance population. But in this case, now instead of writing all of this, we can just specify the number. So this one will include hidden rows, like maybe after you have filtered, This one will exclude hidden rows. So if you want to exclude hidden rows, these are the codes that you put. If you want to include hidden rows, these are the numbers that you put. So let's quickly go back to our Excel and demo pivot table particularly. Then if we have time, we can demo subtotal too. So I'm switching my screen to Excel so that we all can see that. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be deleting this. I'll be deleting the whole of this too. So yeah, I want to summarize this table, and you are going to see the beauty of pivoting a table just in a bit. Okay, so let's come to table inserts. So under this table group, I want to insert pivot table. So we see pivot table here. So I'm selecting my data from a table range so that I can specify my table range. So here it's telling me to select the table range. I'll just highlight the whole of my table instead of specifying. So if I click here and I press Ctrl Shift End, which no, so I can do this, yes. So what I did is just I selected my table. So practice will allow us to get familiar with navigating very quickly, like I just did. But in essence, what I did is I clicked on Control and Shift, and then I did Control Shift End, meaning that it selected the whole of my table where there is data. So if your sheet contains only your data, you don't have to worry. But because I have added some extra data here, it selected this data too. So I just use the up arrow key to navigate away from it. Basically, these are all the tables that I want to summarize. This is the table I want to summarize. So I'll click new worksheet because I wanted to create it in a new worksheet. Or if I click existing worksheet and I select sheet one, so it's going to put my pivot table here. So I can now say, okay, so say destination is not valid. Okay, that's fine. I think I know what is up. I'll just say A1. Oh no, yeah, A1. Let me just say to A. Okay, so anyway, for learning purpose, let me just cancel this and do it the proper way. Let me just cancel that and do it the proper way. So here I select my table. I want to insert a new table, pivot table. So I'm using a new sheet. So just select a new sheet. It's easier that way. But once you are comfortable with pivot tables, you can use the existing worksheet. So here I select a new sheet. See, just the same thing. I just wanted to show us so that. But now you see that it created another sheet for me, and it called it sheet two. So um, nice. Like I explained before, we have this pivot table field, and this is what we are going to use to create our pivot table. So what is important to me, what I want to see in the value is, so I just click the cells and I'm dropping it on values. So you see that has been checked. And look at the way you summarize it very quickly. Is if everything you want to see is sales, then I can do a sum of all the sales for you. I now want to see the sales by products, yes. So here I can put my products here. So you see how it quickly summarizes. These are all the products you have, and then These are all the sales you have per product. So here it listed my unique products. So I don't have to write any formulas. I don't have to go to insert anything. It just did all the whole calculations for me. So I say, oh, some of these products belongs to different category. Can I filter by category? So I can actually say, oh, I want to see for different categories per time. I can put my category in filter. So yeah, you see what it did? Now say, okay, you can actually filter, but what you are seeing right now is category all, meaning that these are all category for the products. So you can actually filter by, oh, I want to see for only clothing, and I click OK. So it just reduce the whole thing to clothing. So let's say, no, I want to filter by year also. So I can add two filter to it. Do you see what it did? So you see, what you are seeing is for the whole year. Do you want to see only for 2015? I say yes. I click OK. So it has reduced it and say, oh, this is clothing and this clothing are in 2015. So if I say I want to see I want to see bike in 2015, I can just come here and click bike. So what it's doing is that it's quickly pivoting, that is putting emphasis on different parts of the table with quick understanding. I can say, okay, what you have done is nice, but I want to see products and category as columns. So I can just bring category into the column to take it, and I can bring products into the columns to take it. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that actually. So let me just, okay, it's not bad. Then I'll have to do this. So what I just did is I brought category into the columns and I brought product into the column, which is not the best way to actually see it. So is either I put category as my filter and then I let products be in the column. So here, this is it. So I can actually say for different years, 2015, 2016, 2017, this is the total bike shots. So it's put all the products in the column section, which is not a very good view. So one of the best thing is know which one is important for you to see. So if the year is what is important for you, so you can actually see the observations by the year and then filter by whatever it is that you need per time. So I can say, okay, category, I only want to see bikes. So it will just reduce the column to bikes, and then this makes sense. So it means, okay, in 2015, you have cargo bike, mountain bike, road bike, touring bike. So these are all the totals. And then for the year, these are all the total. These are all the total across all of the year. Then for one single year, this is the total. So pivoting table is just knowing which one is important and then how you want to view your table. So that is that about pivot table. I hope you understand how that is. So you can actually add as many rows, as many columns. So let me quickly show us something also pivoting the table. So if I don't want to do sum and I want to do average, I can just come here, value setting, and then I can change my value here. So I can click on average, I click OK. It just does average instead of doing sum of everything. Does average. So I'll just change this one from grand total. I'll change this one to average. So just does that for me, and that is very easy. So that is what pivot table can do for us. Now let's quickly use this pivot table to do something on subtotal. So here is what I mean. So let me just come here and do subtotal. Yeah, so here you come here and you do equal to subtotal. That's how to use subtotal function. Subtotal. So we can say, okay, you see that is already suggesting for me. One is average because you need to input the number of the function that you want to do. 1 is average, 2 is count, 3 is count all, 4 is max, 5 is min. So if I want to do 4, let's just do 4. 4 for maximum. I put comma after that 4. So it's saying my first reference. So let's say I want to do only for cargo bike and road bike. So I can select my first reference, cargo bikes, comma. My second reference is road bikes. I can select that too. And then I close my brackets and I press enter. So this is the maximum between these two values. And if you look at it, this is the maximum. So I don't need to include this guy in my, ordinarily we'll have said select everything and do maximum. But I don't need to stress myself. I can just specify only what I'm interested in, even if it is on another sheet. When I'm doing referencing, I can just come to this sheet and reference an entire column here and come back to my function and it will be there. So that's the advantage that Subtotal has over using the functions independently like max, min, and etc. So basically, this is the content for this session. And I want to believe that we are able to get everything that we promised you will be getting. Trying to navigate back to my slide. Okay, yes, I'm here now. Okay, so we have been able to cover cell referencing. We have seen essential formulas for data analytics, and by now I'm sure you know where you can find these formulas. Go to Insert tab, click on Functions. You see a wide range of functions and formulas that you can use. So we also did some practicals on creating functions where we also implemented cell referencing, the different types of cell referencing. We did some data manipulations like concatenation, left, right, and I also showed you some other ones that is possible to do with Excel, like substitute, clean. Then finally, we did some data manipulation where we used product name and product category to create a product detail. Then lastly, just now, we looked at pivot tables. And guys, this is where the lesson will come to an end. Thank you very much for staying. And I'm handing over to Mr. Tejumala to pick it from here. Thank you very much, guys. If you have questions, you can drop it in the chat and I'll be here to respond.
Okay, thank you very much. Please use your favorite emoji. Don't forget to allow me the Shubham for this quite developed delivered session. Please let us celebrate him. Use your favorite emoji. Okay, so Olamide, before you leave and before we call it a day, we have some questions here. So this one is from Oluwadan Dimilami Akiyode. Okay, it says, please, what's the difference between pivot table and filters? Can you please that? And then as a check for other questions.
Okay, so basically, pivot table is inserting a new table. That is one of the difference. While filter is just still working on your particular table. And also, what filter does is that filter hides the value that you are not seeing. It means that the values are still there, but they are hidden. But pivot table is going to extract them into a new table. In essence, you are just creating another table, while filter is the same table, just hiding some values. Another difference is that you cannot filter across a column. Yes, you cannot filter across a column. Yeah, I think you can filter across a column, but when you are doing pivot table, you can select the columns you want to see and the ones you don't want to see.
Thank you very much for that answer. So I think I'm going to be picking two more questions, and then afterwards we can continue conversation in our Telegram group. I'm very sure that we are all now a member of that group. That is where conversation after the class can continue. Okay, so I have this question from Shuri Mekong Elizabeth. Said my sales are not rightly aligned. What do I do, please? Maybe it's referring to the data set. I'm not sure. I don't know if you understand the question, Olamide.
Okay, so you are saying your sales column is not rightly aligned. My understanding is, oh, let me see, I'm being informed that you are referring to left aligned, center aligned, or right aligned. Yeah, if your sale value is not rightly aligned, click on the sales column, highlight all the sales, go to your number, your number group under the home tab. Try to put it under general. If it's still not aligned, you can put it under numbers. I think it will work that way. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much,
much,
Olam. I
Olamide. I
think
think
this
this
is
is
the
the
last
last
question.
question that I pick up here. So you can just drop your other questions in this group. A lot of people are asking for a link to the latest Excel version. I don't know if the facilitator can help us to the Telegram group. Okay, although Microsoft Excel is not for free. It comes majorly with especially the latest version. So it may need some subscription, but I'm very sure that there are some free versions that we can use and explore for practice purpose. Okay, so okay, I think Alam, would you like to say something to that?
Yes, so Mr. Teju is actually right. Microsoft Excel is not a free. Microsoft packages are not free software, but if you are a student, you can register as a student, and then I'm sure Microsoft provide incentive for students and learners, also researchers, I think. So if you register with that kind of account, you are sure to get access to the latest version of Microsoft Excel.
Yeah, so this is the last question I'll be picking from here. I just pick questions at random. Okay, so other questions you can use can continue conversation on the Telegram group. Earlier I mentioned. So this I had a challenge when I tried to drag my first column to my first column and then as attached in the picture. How can I overtake this challenge? Can I read it again? Say, sir, I had a challenge when I tried to drag my first column and down. Okay, when I tried to drag my first column maybe up and down as attached in the picture, how can I overtake this challenge? I don't know. Maybe you can just, if you understood that question, and you can just answer.
Okay, I'll be assuming that you are trying to create a pivot table. So, basically, some things to note when trying to create a pivot table is that the value column is something I think you should fill first. Although it's not mandatory, but it's what I think you should populate first. Click and drag your column that you want to summarize into the pivot table. And one thing to note is that that column must be summarizable. If it is not a number where you can do sum or you can do average, you should be able to do at least counts. You should be able to do count on it so that when Excel is trying to summarize it, it just does count of that column. Then every other column does not really have criteria. The column that have criteria is the value column, and make sure Excel is able to do at least a count on it. So yes, click and drop on when creating pivot table is possible, and it is something that we just demo. Just try again. I'm sure you get it.
So thank you very much for Olamide. This is an awesome section, and I'm very sure that a lot of us have learned a lot. And so the class continues tomorrow. Let's do it to come on time, join on time. It's going to be awesome as usual and even better than what we have today. So don't forget to fill the attendance form. The recordings of this class will be available this day after this session. So do well to check in case you have any area of the class that you need to watch again. You can always do that, by checking our YouTube page and then listening to the question and listening to the session once again. So thank you everyone for joining. It's glad having you on this call. See you tomorrow. You can still invite your friends to join this class. Register via our registration link and then join the class. And then tomorrow is going to be an awesome session. Thank you and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
To be the best, number one and nothing less. Lead me to my destiny. I have waited patiently.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the winner is DSN Data Science Nigeria.
On me, so stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up. For the champions, for the champions.
Congratulations, DSN, on winning the AI ML Excellence Awards and the AOT 5.0 Awards. We all want to say congratulations!
For the champions, stand up. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Here we go.
Congratulations! Congratulations, DSN.
It's just like that.
Congratulations, DSN.
Have our strengths and weaknesses. Oh, I have vision, can't you see? I'm on the move, make way for me. So stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up. Stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up.
Congratulations to DSN.
Fall down. I have to pick myself back up. And when I pick myself back up, and when I fall down, I have to pick
Congratulations to DSN. You did it.
stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
Once upon a younger year, when all our shadows disappeared, the animals inside came out to play. Went face to face with all our fears, learned our lessons through the tears, made memories we knew would never fade. One day my father, he told me, son, don't let it slip away. He took me in his arms, I heard him say, when you get older, your wild heart will live for younger days. Think of me if ever you're afraid. He said one day you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me. Light a fire they can't put out, carve your name into those shining stars. He said go venture far beyond the shores, don't forsake this life of yours. I'll guide you home no matter where you are. One day my father, he told me, son, don't let it slip away. When I was just a kid I heard him say, when you get older your wild heart will live for younger days. Think of me if ever you're afraid. He said one day